Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, everybody. We're just going to wait literally one more minute as people are coming on thick and fast. We've got over 100 people coming on this today, so just bear with us literally a minute and we'll be back with you. Thanks very much. Hi everyone again. We're now ready to go. We've got people, as I say, attending thick and fast, so we'll just crack on. We are recording the session, so we will be able to share this with you afterwards for anyone else within your organisations. Just a bit of housekeeping. You're all on mute at the moment, so there's no background noise, but obviously at the end of the session there'll be a Q&A that we always do, because I'm sure this will dredge up some questions from all of you, and we'll sort of be there to answer them at the end. We're seeing a huge increase in virtualization with CAD software, and obviously at IMS CAD, as some of you know, and some of you have been on our webinars in the past, we are the specialists in this area and been working with Autodesk closely over a number of years. But more importantly, what we were going to talk about today, apart from the FY14 update, is actually more about partnership, the partnership arrangement we can offer you. My name's Adam Jull, I'm the CEO, and we're very keen to get you guys on board with us, working with us, with your customers to deliver Citrix solutions. And obviously we offer a business model to you so you can make some more money. So as I say, at the end we'll have a Q&A about this, all these things, and obviously there is the question box down in your control panel which we would encourage you to use. I know some of you have already put in a couple of comments about when we're starting. So without further ado, my colleague Chris Harvey is going to take you through the slides, and myself and him will be on at the end to answer any questions. So I hope you all enjoy it, and we'll all speak to you soon. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Adam. Hi everyone, my name is Chris Harvey. I'm the Operations Director here at IMS CAD. Now, as Adam's briefly alluded to, we're going to really talk about virtualization, clouds, what is cloud computing all about. We're going to give you a very brief overview and try and make this a little bit clearer. I think there's a lot of misconceptions in the industry spoken about clouds and what they're about and what they're for. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of that. We are going to talk about Autodesk, the changes for FY14, what's relevant, how that's going to impact on your business. And we're going to talk about IMS CAD and why you should be working with us, what services we can offer you, and how that really fits in. So that's where we are at the moment. That's what we're going to be up to. So I'm going to get straight on with running through some fairly brief slides and giving you today's overview. So virtualization, we use the analogy satellite TV. I think it's a good one. It's the same model as we're seeing in a Citrix virtualized deployment. It's not about what you're watching or what applications users are using. Very simply, everything is processed centrally, then delivered to the users, irrespective of what device the users are using. In a satellite model, what device of television or whatever you are viewing the TV programs or your satellite programs. So it's a very similar model in a basic view to explain in that way. The detail of it, if I give you a little bit, a workstation deployment, we traditionally see there's a lot of different components that make up any workstation deployment, and all of those are within each workstation. The nature of that makes it very hard for IT management to control those individual components where they're distributed across the workstations and across the corporate estate. What we're doing in a virtualized environment is splitting those different unique parts away from each other. We're then centralizing those on servers or in a data center. At that point, IT basically has far greater control of those individual components. Basically, we can then reduce the cost of management. We can virtualize those components independently, and from there, of course, IT can then deliver applications, desktops, and data to the users as an on-demand service. So the simple case, it fits all the way from the users to the data center. IT centralizes the applications, the data, all of the management, security, everything else, and then delivers those as an on-demand service. The outcome, quite simply, more control for IT, far better security, and the obvious benefit of all of this is lowering costs in administration. So that's the simple way in which we're looking at virtualization. What it means for you, the developments we've seen through Citrix in the virtualization technology and the virtualization platform. We now have virtualization available to 3D and design users who were previously left outside the corporate IT structures. So I've listed a few of the industries which now fall into this bracket, which we can address in terms of CAD virtualization. Obviously, everyone here today is pretty much an Autodesk reseller or partner. So you're dealing with CAD products. You're already speaking to CAD departments. What you will often find, those departments are left outside the corporate IT strategy or virtualization strategy. Many of your clients will already have virtualization in place, in board, within their organizations, and have to date excluded the CAD departments on account of the fact that it's not been feasible or practical or indeed possible to virtualize those CAD users. Well, that's all changed. With Citrix we now can. So as I say, I've just highlighted some of those on the screen. We're going to push forward fairly quickly today, so I'm just going to run over for you the key benefits of virtualization so that we can understand where this fits into your clients. The first one and the obvious one is the reduction in IT management costs by centralizing all of the application management. If you imagine a workstation deployment, perhaps cross-site with branches, perhaps cross-geo, the cost for IT in managing those individual workstations and the applications on those workstations is significant. So by centralizing it, we've got no more patches and upgrades to do. All of them can be done once on a central server and then simply delivered by IT as a desktop image to all of the users. So, you know, in a distributed environment, I'm sure you, as you're well aware, all of your deployments with CAD applications, it's unlikely that somebody is, for instance, a Revit user. They've normally got Adobe, they normally have a load of add-ons and plugins and additional things they're putting in there. So to manage that from an IT position is a huge headache, but to bring that into a central management, a single instance management, is massively reducing the IT costs of managing that infrastructure. Second to this, with Citrix, because all of the data, the applications and everything stay central at the servers, all we're communicating across the network is quite simply keystrokes, pixel changes, mouse movements. So we're seeing a massive reduction in the data that's moving backwards and forwards in the overall traffic. We're not moving files around. The files all stay central. They stay at the server or at the SAN linked to the server. So all we're communicating is that simple. The endpoint device is simply viewing the data on the server. The data is never actually moving. So we're seeing a massive reduction in traffic across the LAN or the WAN, and obviously that can have a reduction in the cost of lease lines, etc. As I mentioned, all of the data stays central at the servers. Clearly there's a huge benefit in this in terms of data compliance and IP protection. We're seeing more and more contracts coming through from people in the oil and gas and energy arenas where they're actually putting data compliance restrictions in the contracts they're writing on their suppliers. So this is becoming more and more relevant. We're getting away from the sort of USB stick removal of data mentality. All of the data stays central, so of course we're massively protecting that data. No more distributed data around all of the workstations listed across the estate, so a huge benefit there. Everyone of course works on centrally stored models, so we've much better control of versions, who's got the latest version, who's working on the latest version. So we're getting away from those complexities and those issues relating to different versions of the same data listed across the estate. The other key point we need to mention about virtualization, what we're achieving here with Citrix virtualization technology, is really the flexibility for workers and for enterprise mobility. So we're talking here about access from the central servers to any device at any time, and those devices, it's independent of operating system, so we can have access to an Apple iPad, for example, and you can be viewing and working on Revit running on Windows at the central server. So this mobility, it's allowing mobile workers, home working, hot desking, obviously site work. We have architects here in the UK that we've deployed who actually go on site with an iPad and work on the plans with the contractors on site. And not just accessing, they can even amend and edit those files while they're on site through that simple Apple device. This is fitting into the bring your own device policies. We're seeing more and more. I think a good example of this, we've seen a change in work styles and a change in employment styles from companies. Their need is to employ the right personnel to move their businesses forward. The new personnel we're seeing entering the workplace now are more computer literate than ever before. They've been brought up with computers all their lives, they're used to working on them, and they're quite discerning in their choice of equipment. In order for enterprises to attract the right employees, they need to meet these requirements of the new type of workforce they're bringing in. So obviously the device independence and operating system independence clearly fits into that in terms of them moving forward. So this is all about basically giving control to IT. We've talked about individual mobility. Mobility for enterprise is a big factor as well. We're seeing much more, and I think the licensing from Autodesk is reflecting this. We're seeing more movements towards project-based work. The ability to provision and deploy 40 new users for a project, let's say using Building Design Suite, for example, you've got 10 applications, about 35 gig of apps that you need to load onto each workstation. Well, the job for IT to provision that for 40 new users is a significant task. If you put that into a central environment, as we're talking about at servers, IT can simply set up the users and deliver that image of all of the applications they want straight away. So that's a very simple task, but the mobility for enterprise, upscaling and downscaling is massively improved. Also version control, obviously, which users have access to what applications, etc., etc. So I think you can see the point on that one. I won't go on that. The other point of this, which I think we need to mention, and this becomes relevant as to when this fits into client strategies, is about your hardware assets, investment in hardware assets. We're seeing a huge movement at the moment with people moving from AutoCAD to Revit for the BIM requirements. And I think with that, what we're seeing is huge investments into workstations where everyone's needing to upgrade their workstations, the graphics capabilities, etc., in order to run the BIM products as opposed to the 2D AutoCAD products. What we're talking about here, because we've centralized everything, all of the processing power happens at the central servers. It doesn't happen at the endpoint device. The endpoint device is of no consequence. So we can save all of that investment that's going into those workstations. Most people do it on a renewal basis of 2 or 3 years, upgrading those workstations. So we can remove all of that cost. We put the investment into the central servers, and then we sweat the assets, the endpoint asset, the endpoint device, we sweat for much longer. Obviously, when they go wrong, we can replace those with fairly low-cost, simple, thin clients at a much reduced overhead for the organisation in terms of hardware expenditure. So that's really where we can fit in, and the key benefits that virtualisation is offering your customers and will offer your customers. So cloud computing, I'm going to have a brief touch upon cloud computing for you because I think there's a lot of misinformation put into the marketplace about this, not least from Autodesk themselves in truth. But I think when we talk about cloud computing, I want to just give you a brief overview and sort of explain what we mean and how we see cloud computing. In simple terms, there's different clouds. The personal cloud is about the individuals, the individual users, and this relates to their personal information, their devices, their applications, their data, their contacts, and the locations that are unique to those individuals. Now, this is owned by the individual. It's not owned by IT. The role of IT in all of this is to make that unique cloud of personal assets available to the user whenever he wants them, on whatever device he wants them, and wherever he wants them. So that's where the personal cloud fits in. The private cloud, which is what we're really talking about today in terms of what we're doing for enterprises with application deployment. Private clouds really are covering the mix of applications, the data, and of course those users that are necessary for the organization to function effectively and securely. So it's critical for IT to centralize and manage the applications, the desktops, and then deliver them as an on-demand service to any device. But the key thing is it maintains the high levels of security and control that IT require in terms of taking the business forward. So that's really what we're talking about here in terms of private clouds. Now, public clouds are the next step. What this refers to and what we mean by public clouds, it's the extended functionality and service options that an organization has available to it which are outside their own infrastructure. So these provide them with obviously great possibilities for expansion and are generally used as an on-demand service. Now, we might be talking things in that like Office 365, like rendering services offered from Autodesk with the Revit products. So those are what we're talking about when we're talking about public clouds. Now, in truth, the deployments we're looking at, while they are effectively private clouds, they are dealing with the requirements of the individual and their personal clouds, and at times will equally include a certain amount of public cloud. So we'll often deploy Office 365, as I said, or indeed some offload, some rendering to a public cloud service. So these, what we term those as, is basically a hybrid cloud scenario. So normally, while we're based on a private cloud, what we're talking about really here today and what all of this is about hybrid clouds. But the key bit to focus on is the private clouds. In truth, in the current marketplace, public clouds, while some enterprises will look at public clouds for certain functionality, there is still a reticence in most enterprise clients to put any huge amounts of data or organizational input into public clouds. There isn't the level of security there yet in people's minds. In truth, there probably is, but people aren't comfortable to use it all yet. So this is why we're setting up private clouds for enterprise clients, from which we do all of the application virtualization and data control and user management, etc. So that's a brief overview of clouds. I hope that gives you a better understanding, because I think there's a bit of misinformation in the marketplace, and I hope that's, I've tried to make that the sort of simplest way of defining what we see as clouds and how we fit into those. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to talk to you about Autodesk. This is the concentration for us all. This is your main crux of your business for most of you. So Autodesk, where have they been with Citrix? Where have they been on virtualization? It all started 2009 with the Map 3D product. That's when we got involved as a virtualization specialist company. We were brought in by Autodesk to assist in deployment to Map 3D. We pretty soon realized it wasn't going to be too relevant. One product on its own doesn't fit into a virtualization strategy for anybody. So we started working with Autodesk on developing the AutoCAD and Revit ranges of product, the AEC-based products. We ran some pilots, international pilots, did various testing, and it really gave us a chance to fully understand the applications and how these applications work in a virtual environment, and how really to make them work in a virtual environment, because it's not like an office-based product that you're going to just plug in and away you go. Alas, these resource-hungry applications need a lot of tweaking, they need a lot of optimization, of customization, and indeed so does the virtualization platform in order to get them to work properly. So, the 2012 we saw the releases AutoCAD Revit. We then saw the FY13 releases, which included more of the manufacturing-based products. We saw Inventor. We've also seen Civil come over for approval on Citrix. So we've seen more and more products coming over to the Citrix platform and Citrix certified by Autodesk, and indeed we've helped them with that certification along the way. So FY14, what have we seen in this year's release? Because this is the big thing. what we've seen from Autodesk, we've seen a change in the LSA. The licensing has changed. What the licensing now states, and I need to go over this, we've been going backwards and forwards with Autodesk Legal regarding this because it's not particularly clear. What now is the situation I can confirm for you in the licenses? There are two key changes. The first is the key change is the license change, which allows any NLM product of the current range to be run in a virtual environment. And that includes any virtual environment. So we're talking about, potentially VMware, Hyper-V, whatever you like. The thing that is the caveat that I need to put on that is the only one that is currently supported by Autodesk is Citrix. And we have worked with a number of these. We've got VMware specialists here. To date, the real one that we have success and get the things working properly on is with Citrix. So the key change from Autodesk is any NLM can now be virtualized. What that means is you no longer need to change your users from NLM license to a dedicated Citrix license. So that single instance Citrix license that you used to switch them to, we don't need to. So that means you can use the same license pool to support users on the network as you can in a virtualized Citrix environment. Now that's key, because what this means is that companies who are potentially looking at Citrix, it's now going to make it easier for them to perhaps do a pilot, perhaps look at entering into virtualization, possibly just for their mobile users initially. But it allows them to do it without having to dedicate licenses to those Citrix users. So traditionally, if we had 20 users in an office, they needed mobility for 5. They needed to dedicate 5 licenses to those Citrix mobile users and take those out of the license pool. That was much harder and much less practical than being able to use the same license file, the same license manager to support those users in both sides. So that's the first of the big changes, which I think is relevant, is the NLM licenses can now be run in a virtual environment. The second one, and I think this is very relevant, we've seen over the last, 18 months to 2 years, I think everybody's been pushing their clients towards the suites. It's been very much the focus from Autodesk, and obviously bringing all of these clients under subscription onto the suites is obviously in their interest. The second key change that we've seen is support for the suites from Autodesk. Now, at this stage, what we've seen in terms of the support is the AutoCAD Design Suite, the Building Design Suite, so this is the key of the AEC products, Infrastructure Design Suite, obviously civil included, and the Plant Design Suite. Now, I have to put a proviso on this, which is from Autodesk. This is the official support. The proviso is that some of the component parts of these suites are not supported. The reason for that is due to the scalability issues of some of those parts. But I should say that we can support all of the component parts of these running in a virtualized Citrix environment. Now, when we talk about that scalability issue, I should just sort of explain that a little bit. For instance, in some of the products we saw OpenGL products within those component parts, SketchUp, things like that are OpenGL. So what we've done actually, we've actually worked with Citrix on getting a fix to that OpenGL issue. We now have that. That is now available, so we now no longer have a problem with the OpenGL things, which were holding back the official support announcement from Autodesk. The other one, when we're talking about scalability, I think it's safe to say if you look at a product like 3ds Max, which is particularly resource hungry, the scalability of that in a virtualized environment is obviously not as good as some of the other products. What's also changed in the licensing is the support for Citrix has changed from Citrix Zen App to Citrix Zen Desktop. Now, Citrix Zen Desktop in truth is a suite of products which include Citrix Zen App. At this stage, the way in which we need to virtualize applications to make them run effectively on a multi-user server is to do application virtualization with Zen App. We can then still publish those applications through Zen Desktop if required, if there's a full desktop virtualization required. But at this stage, we really have to do the application virtualization with Zen App. So that's just to explain that. But in terms of scalability, what this means, there's certain functionality within Zen Desktop which will benefit products like 3ds Max and will make them more scalable. Currently, just as a sort of guideline, if we're talking about a Zen App deployment, let's take Revit users. If we've got Revit and AutoCAD users, we can approximately run 20 of those on a physical server. What we're talking about with Zen App, of course, is that's how we get the multiple users onto the GPU cards, and sharing the GPU cards is through a Zen App deployment. Currently with Zen Desktop, we have a restriction on user to GPU card as a one-to-one basis. So what that means is obviously we don't have the scalability levels at Zen Desktop at this stage. However, if we add to this, NVIDIA are doing some huge developments on their GPU cards. We actually work and do testing for NVIDIA. So we now have GPU cards from NVIDIA which have got multiple GPUs on a single card. Therefore, from a scalability perspective for a product like 3ds Max, we can still work on a one-to-one basis under Zen Desktop, but actually put 4 3ds Max users on one GPU card, which therefore, again, we're looking at them making it more scalable by doing that. There are developments coming from NVIDIA who have worked closely with Citrix in terms of the development of the VGX hypervisor. That will change the ability for us to use Zen Desktop even further in the future. So that's part of the reason why we've seen Zen Desktop approved by Autodesk. But at this stage, it's a fairly complicated area when you get into all of that, which is what we're here for. Basically, we do the testing for Autodesk, we do testing and trialing for NVIDIA, and of course with Citrix. So we're really at the sort of forefront of these developments, but I'll talk to you about that more in a moment. So that sort of brings us neatly on to us, IMS CAD. Why we're here, why I'm talking to you today. So basically we are considered the global leaders in application virtualization for 2 and 3D applications. So as I said, we ran the pilot projects for AutoCAD and Revit. We do the testing for them. We did the certification testing for the suites. We've actually also done the product design suite already to get that Citrix certified. We do the work with NVIDIA, I'm testing their cards with the Autodesk products, and we're doing testing with hardware manufacturers to make sure their products are working suitably with the NVIDIA cards and the Autodesk solutions virtualized with Citrix, and of course we do work for Citrix. So we really are, originally we set out as an Autodesk reseller, as I said, with Max 3D. We very much withdrew from that position and now concentrate our efforts on supporting basically a global support resource for Autodesk partners, users, Autodesk directly through their major accounts teams. So we're really sort of filling the gaps. I think it's safe to say at this stage, if you look at getting support for Autodesk products on Citrix, Autodesk are very good on the applications. Citrix are obviously very good on the virtualization platform. We sort of sit in that bit in between where it's key to understanding both the virtualization platform and indeed the application and the workings of the application in order to get them effectively working in these environments. So that's really the position where we fit in. So we have a clear model of support that we look on a global basis to help Autodesk partners. So I think there's now, I'll put some other figures up here, I think there's now approximately 7,000 global Citrix support partners and Citrix partners working. As I say, all of these guys will be concentrating on the vertical marketplace in which they work in terms of the platform delivery and generally delivering out-of-the-box applications, office-based applications, which don't need the same kind of customization as we're talking about with these resource-hungry CAD applications that we're all interested in. So that's where we fit in. Now, we provide this support. What are the benefits for you in this, in adopting virtualization? Well, what we found with partners or resellers who partner with us in terms of offering virtualization is it's a real value add. It uplifts your position in the eyes of your clients. It's taking you from dealing with the CAD teams and the CAD management all the way up to the IT departments, the IT management, and the IT strategy makers. So it's putting you in a better position with your customers and potential customers. So not only are we bringing you a direct revenue stream from what we're selling in terms of virtualization solutions, but what you'll find is you'll have access to greater opportunities within your clients because you're now seen by them as a solutions provider and not just a CAD provider. And I think that's a key thing we need to be aware of and need to make you aware of. This really is going to put you in a different position with your clients in terms of how they view you and what kind of solutions they're talking to you about. And I think that's if you're an Autodesk reseller and all you do is sell CAD licenses, I would suggest you're in a fairly precarious position going forward. And I think we really need to look at how best to support your business and strengthen your business in other areas as you go forward into the cloud era, which undoubtedly, and I think Autodesk have made it fairly clear, it's the way they see that going forward. I'm not quite sure where Autodesk see the reseller channel fitting into that and how we fit in, how you guys are going to work with that in terms of supporting clients or how the licensing models are going to work in the future. I'm really not sure. So I think everyone needs to be sensible and support their business and diversify their business. And by providing solutions as opposed to just CAD deployments, it's going to put you in a very strong and a much better, healthier position going forward. So that's how we can help you with that. So what do we look to do? We look to get agreements with resellers as our partners. We've got a huge number of partners globally now. We're working with a number of people. What we ask is that you speak to us, you look at the partnership agreement that we've got. I'm going to briefly touch upon it in a minute. Basically, we ask you to introduce us as your specialist Citrix support partner. And what can we do for you? Well, we can assist you through the entire sales cycle. It's conference calls and meetings straight away, scoping out the opportunities, whether it's consultancy, professional services that are needed, running proof of concepts to prove the feasibility of these solutions to your clients, planning the projects, and through to the installation, project rollouts, the optimization, customization of the applications and the platform, all the way through to the ongoing support. So we can help you in the whole cycle. For those who do sign up as partners, we give you some sales and technical training. We supply you with additional sales tools to help you go to market. We work out marketing strategies on how best to take this to market. So we really can work with you. And I think the point to focus on here is these are your clients we're talking about. They're not our clients, they're your clients. So we very much work on your behalf in those clients and maintain the professional values that you have in adopting those clients. So that's very much how we work. I've given an indication there of the commission we're talking about. We offer basically 20% on all of our services, be that installation charges, consultancy charges, support charges ongoing, etc., etc. Now, I've also said 20% of GP on products. We can supply Citrix licensing. That is not our key focus. But if you need assistance, we can, in which case we equally give partners 20% of the GP on those products, but that's the limited side of it. The other key thing we can give, which I think is relevant to mention here to you in terms of assistance, we have demo servers set up where we can provide you with access so that you can see how well we can do these, how well we can deliver these applications in a virtual environment. So we have those demo servers there for you or indeed your clients to access and just see an example of how well we can get these applications working in a virtual environment. So that's what we look at from assistance with our partners. What we're looking at from you, those of you who wish to partner with us, very simply, some kind of announcement, obviously the internal training that we'll give to your sales and tech people, the support we'll give you going forwards in terms of sales support and strategy, etc., in terms of marketing. But what we suggest with just about everybody we sign up with, the best way forward is to start with a customer-facing webinar. Let's get out there and tell your customers, your potential customers, your prospects. Let's get out there and tell them about the benefits of virtualization. Let's highlight the fact that this is now available for their CAD users. We can now bring them into that virtualized environment. And what we find, I think, with every partner we've been to and done this to date, I think we've found surprisingly the number of immediate opportunities that are available. And part of the reason for this is that you will have customers who are considering virtualizing their CAD departments, but perhaps aren't speaking to you because they don't see you as a virtualization supplier, they just see you as a CAD supplier. And this really is to cover them, but immediately if we get out there, we will see some return on that investment and the investment you're putting in. Now, I'm going to briefly talk about solutions just to give you an idea. Now this, what I've put up here, single service solution, we're looking at approximately 20 users. Now this is based, and I've estimated some of the costs here, but this is based on a Hewlett-Packard DL380P with dual processors, upgraded power supplies. We've got a couple of NVIDIA Q4000 graphics cards in there. This would cover all of your Windows, Citrix licensing, installation charges, support from us for a year, so the full package. Now based on a 1-year package, what we're talking about here is, obviously I put it up here, 38,000 euros, 44,000 for 10 applications, 38 for 5. But spread that over a 3-year, which I think is the more relevant figure. If we look at this over 3 years, the increase to 55,000 and 64,000 euros is significant. And what that's really meaning, if you're looking at this per user based on 20 users, for 5 applications over a 3-year period, we're talking about 76 euros per user per month. So the real cost of deploying this is not high. As an initial cost, it looks expensive, but the real cost of deploying this is limited. So for 10 applications over 3 years, we're only talking about 89 euros per month per user. That includes all renewals, ongoing 3-year support from us. So we really are, when you take out this hardware expenditure and the requirement to renew hardware expenditure, which you have in a workstation deployment, you know, this really can be a very effective solution. Now, given this as an example, this is 20 users based on that number of applications. Obviously, what we are looking at in true deployments, people are coming in with Revit, AutoCAD, Adobe, a whole load of add-ons and plugins. So each installation is different. We need to sort of get involved and look at them all independently. But this just to give you an overview. So they're the kind of figures we're looking at for deployment, but I would very much look at the 3-year figures as opposed to the singles. So let's just briefly look at, we'll provide you, if you become partners with us, we'll provide you assistance, sales tools to help you with who to target. We'll agree strategies of going to market. But in basic terms, in really simple terms, if you're aligning your key, the questions you're asking your customers, aligning those to the key benefits, then this is where you're going to score. It's really simple. IT management, the reduction in cost. Does your client have distributed applications? Do they want to simplify their IT management structure? Yes, we can help. Do they have issues with IP? Do they have issues with security, distributed data, data compliance requirements? Yes, we can help. Do they need flexibility? Do they need mobile workers? Do they need to work on site? Again, we can help. If they're bring your own device policies, again, we can help. The scalability for project demands, upscaling, downscaling, absolutely suited to server deployment as opposed to workstation deployment. And of course, getting away from that expensive hardware investment that we're seeing in workstations where they've got to be renewed every 2 or 3 years, potentially being upgraded from an AutoCAD to a Revit workstation. So all in all, there's huge benefits. It's just a matter of working out which ones are right for which customers and targeting them accordingly. But if you ask the right questions, you'll get the right information from the customers to see where the benefits fit in. But this we can help you with. So really simply, to summarise today what we've been over, I'll try to keep things as short as I can. We've talked about virtualisation briefly, about clouds. Also about FY14 in terms of the license changes. Your NLM licenses can now be run from the same license pool in the Citrix environment as well. The support has changed from Autodesk to include support for the suites. That will only increase on the number of products that are supported. But the key thing to remember is, you know, if you're working with us, we'll support the products that we deploy, and we can support all of the Autodesk products in a virtual environment. So we put a support contract in place with every deployment, so you're getting support from us. We've talked about why you want to use us, why we fit in, why we're the specialists at doing this globally, and I hope I've given you a brief overview of the partnership agreement we put in place, and obviously some indication of the type of costs we're looking at in these solutions. That's really what we wanted to talk about today. We want to get you guys involved. We are going to have this webinar recorded. It will be available. We'll provide a share file link to anybody who wants that. But for now, I think what we need to look at is obviously putting this to you. I'm sure this has raised a lot of questions. The questions box at the bottom right-hand side is there for anybody who wants to put any questions over. And I've got Adam with us as well. He'll be coming back on to go through some of the questions as well. So let's just have a look at what's coming in on the questions front. What do we mean by scalability? Scalability in terms of the enterprises is their ability to upscale and downscale, for instance, for project requirements. So it's, as I said, if you've got to deploy 20 users to work on a project, you know, trying to do that on 20 workstations is a significant task for IT. If you're doing that from the Citrix environment, you could probably do it in 20 minutes. You simply set up the new users and then deploy or image the applications to those from a central server. So it's that ability to upscale and downscale. And of course, equally, to re-provision a server for a new project, let's say, is going to be far easier than re-provisioning and deploying workstations for project requirements. So that's really what we're talking about on scalability. Next up, we have plans for the MSD suites. Now, at this stage, I'm trying to think what you mean by the MSD suites, I'll be honest. In terms of manufacturing, we have the factory design, the product design suites we have already certified for Citrix. I believe the reason that Autodesk did not give confirmation of that in this FY14 release in terms of the suites they were supporting, I believe the reason they didn't do the manufacturing was because there was a scalability issue with the OpenGL products and equally potentially with 3ds Max. But I think it was all about scalability, but at this stage the product managers decided not to give that one the official confirmation. What I will say is we obviously have tested that, we've Citrix certified it, we know it works. We've got the OpenGL fix with Citrix now, so the OpenGL issue no longer exists. I think we will see the product design suite getting the official approval from Autodesk in the very near future, and I think we'll see more and more of the products going that way. The key thing to remember here is if you're working with IMS CAD and we deploy a solution and we deploy the suites, we will provide the support for those, so we will support that product. And I think that's a key point to note, because I don't think I'm being unrealistic if I suggest that if you went to Autodesk and asked them for support on a suite deployment on Citrix, you would almost certainly end up speaking to us anyway. Citrix can work the platform, Autodesk can work the apps. We really sit in that particular area that sits in between, and it's a specialist skill that the other guys don't have. Now, I'm just looking down the list.
Chris,
Adam,
yeah. Hi everyone. I'm just going to take a question here from George. Can you provide some indication of resources available for IMS CAD to support resellers and end users? So obviously, I think Chris touched on it a little bit, but just to add to that, we've got 28 qualified engineers here. We sit with 5, we're actually a data center business, so we've got 5 data centers, 2 in London, 2 in New York and 1 in Zurich. So we obviously do hosting and various other services around this. As far as resources for you as a reseller, we would obviously deploy Chris's team to help you with the sales process. We also then would have our sort of senior engineering guys to help with the technical side of things. And obviously for the end users themselves, we're not scared of getting on planes and going to meetings. We do that quite a bit. We work a lot in the US already, so they're comfortable with us, and I think guys in Europe would be as well. So it's a good question, and obviously if you want to follow it up, George, with us, we can take that offline as well to give you a bit more detail around that. But we're very well resourced. We have a network operations center here that manages all our servers that we deploy 24/7, so we actually see any issues that happen before the customer does. So we're very on the ball with our engineering support. Just to sort of carry on with some of the questions, the product design suite and factory design suite, another question's been asked there. As Chris alluded to, that's been we've tested that ourselves and certified that. Autodesk pulled it kind of last minute for 2014. I think probably by 2015 that will be available. There's a few products within there that are slightly problematic at the moment, but in particular Inventor, I will say, is very much available on Citrix. We've deployed that quite a few times with customers, so if you have a manufacturing base of customers, don't be disheartened. We have sort of very good solutions around all that, those type of people. And that kind of leads nicely onto a Vault question. We get asked about Vault quite a bit now. We're just in the process of doing quite a lot of testing with Vault, and actually Plant 3D as well. But yeah, again, it's not a supported product on Citrix, but again, it runs fine. It's all about how you deploy it. So again, if you want to follow that up offline, you can. Just drop us a line. The creative media entertainment side of things, obviously that's been asked as well. I think that's a bit of a longer session. I think that's probably a webinar all to itself. So I think we'll take that one offline there. That's not really relevant at the moment in the virtualized space right now, both from Autodesk and Citrix. The last, I've just had another one come in, which is quite interesting. So, Frederick, if you have a central office with a virtualized server for an agency with 4 to 5 people on each, is it necessary to have hardware like Riverbed products on SDSL for each agency? So, in fact, what you're saying there, Frederick, is having WAN optimization on the lines to deliver Citrix. I would say for that little amount of people, probably not. We tend to see Riverbed deployed for offices with 20, 30, 40, 50 people plus on. Citrix is very powerful and very low bandwidth, so as Chris alluded to, nothing goes across the network apart from a small amount of data. So I mean, there's a lot of variables there with model sizes and things like that, but I think everyone's different. But yeah, it's a good question. Again, we can follow that up again a bit further. Chris, have you got anything more to add at this stage?
No, I think I'm pretty good at this stage. What I would say, Frederick, that your question's a good one about the WAN optimization. What I would recommend to everybody is, that you get in touch, you have a look at what we can offer you in terms of the demo server. If nothing else, have a look at the demo server that we've got here in the UK. You'll be coming in over the open internet without the benefit of any WAN optimization. We can give you a share file link to upload data so that you can work on your own data during your demo period. But that will give you an idea as to the level of performance that we can achieve. And I think you will be pleasantly surprised at the fact that you will get workstation comparable performance even coming in on the WAN, the open internet, without any WAN optimization applied. So obviously in a corporate environment we're going to see an even better performance level than that. But I would recommend to everybody to get in touch, have a look at our demo server, just see how good this really can be, because believe me, I mean, my sales guys go out to see customers all the time. They all take an iPad with them, and loading up a Revit 3D model on an iPad over their Wi-Fi at the client's office really is quite a kicker for everybody. It really works. It's the power of that. So have a look at our demo server, get in touch with us for that, and try it out. You'll all be pleasantly surprised. We really are talking workstation comparable performance over the WAN. You're not losing functionality, you're not losing performance. This is a very, very viable solution now. It really does work. We've seen benefits, changes in both the releases from Autodesk that make it better, but equally in terms of the platform from Citrix that really make this viable now.
There's just one other question here about Oracle, which is, again, it's about want to look with a local Oracle connection, and that's absolutely fine. Oracle runs fine in Citrix, so no problem with that. So I think that's it, Chris. I think no one else has put any more through. So if there's any more, as Chris alluded to, just drop him an email, get in touch with us. But I'd like to thank you all for your time, and speak to you soon.
Yeah, thank you everyone for your time today. As you say, if there's any questions, do come back to us. I'm more than happy. We are here as a support resource for everybody. That's been our requested role. So we're here as a support resource if anyone does need support with virtualization of CAD products. And I say of CAD products because obviously from our experience we're familiar with a lot of products outside of just Autodesk. So if you have virtualization issues regarding any of the CAD-based products, we can assist you with that. So we will be in touch to give you a link to the recording of this webinar so that everyone's got that. But as I say, I recommend everybody has a look at the demo server. Just to, I think seeing is believing is the best way to put it. So that's there for you all to use, and we're here to help you. But thank you very much for your time today. Look forward to speaking to you all in the near future.